Hey y'all, how are you doing today? Welcome back to my channel. I am Loving Life Freely here on YouTube. I am a full-time reseller on eBay and Poshmark. I do lives on Poshmark and whatnot in kids clothes, and we'll also be doing some men's and women's on Poshmark as far as lives go too. So I do a myriad of things, and this is our weekly chat. It was funny because the other day I was thinking, okay, what do I want to do for weekly chat? And sometimes I have ideas like days ahead of time. And other times it's like when you're a reseller, you kind of go by, recent news or updates that are going on or things that you've heard about in the so to speak reseller windmill. And this week I would really love to talk about the life as a reseller. And the reason why I want to talk about this is partially because of how things have been going for me. And I would also, this is going to be kind of, it's not so much of an informative reseller chat this week, guys, as a motivational one. And I think that these types of chats are really, really important on top of the facts, details, and information, learning and all that stuff, because although those things are super important for reselling, I do believe that motivation, enthusiasm, our attitudes, perseverance, intuitiveness in our businesses is just as vital as all those important facts and information about the platforms, what things are going for, things that are going on in the thrift stores, things that are going on with liquidation. There's so many different aspects to reselling, and this is one of the aspects that is not talked about very often on YouTube or even Instagram or other places like that. And I'm gonna be kind of personal with you in a way that one of the reasons why I decided to talk about this today is you can have really great days and things are going really good. But you can also have days where even though things are going really good in your reselling, or maybe they aren't going really good in your reselling, and it's just, life is just kind of crummy on one day. And I'll be honest with you, yesterday was a really great day. We've had a great weekend. And I woke up this morning just feeling blah because I had just I made some mistakes. And that is one of the things we're going to talk about in our chat today with our motivation and different things, is talking about mistakes in real life, raw, true life as a reseller. Because even though reselling is so incredibly rewarding, and by the way, if you're new to reselling, I would love to say welcome to the community. If you are new to my channel, I would also say welcome to my channel. You've jumped onto a video I hope is a benefit and a blessing to you if you are brand new to watching my video. But the gist of this topic of conversation in this reseller chat this week, guys, is real talk about behind the scenes of being a reseller. Because there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and it's not just how many listings you do, how much research you do, what your comps are, what your cogs are, where you get your inventory, but it's the day-to-day rawness of life, trying to stay motivated. And if you're doing well, how are you doing in what you're doing? So we're going to kind of talk about some things that affect how our days go, and some of those negative things, how we can overcome them. So if something like that is of interest to you, please do stay tuned. Got some, I think, really good things to talk about here. Okay, guys, so let's talk. Let's sit down and just real talk, okay? One of the things that I'd like to talk about, and kind of sets the tone for other aspects that we're going to talk about today in this video, is simply having off days. We don't want to admit it, but we do have off days. We really do. Even if your sales are good, even if you've got inventory, you've got really good sourcing, you could have just simply off days. There are other aspects in our lives that can cause off days, even aside from reselling, whether it's maybe a sick family member, or other aspects. Maybe you just kind of woke up, you didn't sleep well last night, or maybe your child's been sick, or there's been challenges with them in school. Maybe you work a full-time job and you've been doing good in your reselling, but things have just been kind of rough and raw at your job, maybe things have been tough with your husband's job, or maybe he's looking for work. Maybe you're part-time reselling and you're wanting to go full-time and you're trying to get out of things. There's so many different things. Everybody has such a different story while they're reselling, whether it's part-time or full-time. And there are just some things in life in there that can just kind of make your day bum. We don't want to admit it, but it happens. Sometimes you just wake up melancholy. You had a great night the night before, maybe even slept well, and then suddenly something goes right that morning, and you were in a great mood, and you just become melancholy over a circumstance that just pops up and happens. Some of those circumstances, let's talk about them, okay? Making mistakes. Now, I'm going to be really honest with y'all. I have to be truthful here. When I first started out reselling, I was doing research about reselling, and I saw people's videos, how they made mistakes in inventory errors, or made a mistake in their listing, or sold something that they forgot to delist or something, and they made simple mistakes. And I thought to myself, now I'm not perfect, but I'm not going to make those mistakes. I'm going to be so good at this, and I said that not to say that I'm perfect, not to say that I'm all that. I said that because I love to provide great customer service. And I wanted to believe in myself that watching these other people, that I wouldn't make these same mistakes. Okay, I see what they've done. I'm not going to make those same mistakes. I'm going to do what I can to not make that happen. And again, I wasn't doing it because I was arrogant, egotistical, prideful, or anything like that. But I wanted to provide such great customer service in my business, have a great product, and produce a great business model that I thought to myself, okay, if I learn from what they did, then I won't make those mistakes. Wrong. And the reason why we still do make those mistakes, guys, is because we are human. Let's be honest, we're human. And I've had to come to a conclusion that no matter what kind of business you run, no matter how well you function it, no matter what great systems you have in place, because it's important to have systems in place, no matter what great inventory you have, no matter how much you check an item to make sure it doesn't have something wrong, no matter how great your inventory is, no matter how good you are at delisting, no matter how good you are on your platforms, we are human, and human error does happen. It's just a fact of life. And I've had to resolve to that because I'm not a perfectionist, but I do love giving good customer service, and I want to know that my customer is happy with their product. And if something happens wrong, and it is on my end, I feel really bad, and I want to make amends with my customer. Now, let's be honest. There are also those situations where we have customers that are just those customers, and they complain about something that really wasn't an issue. We all know that those things happen too, and that can make for a raw day too. So I would like to share that when we make mistakes, I have had to work through this. There are days when I have no mistakes for weeks. Literally, everything's going great. And there are days when I have 1 or 2 returns, and it's crazy. And there are days when I really, really fumble and drop the ball on something, and I've had to learn to tweak and change something to better my business so I don't make that mistake again, hopefully. Since I mentioned returns, let's talk about returns. I have had a couple issues with things, and I was really bummed because one of the return issues that I had very recently was in one of my what sold items in my what sold video. This was a great piece. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Sold for a great price. And I got a case opened on Poshmark. And I'm like, what in the world? There was nothing wrong with that piece. So the gal sent a photo saying that underneath the item, inside the item, when you turn something inside out, there had been apparently a flaw that was stitched up and, redone and corrected. And it was inside underneath the hemline of the garment by the seam. And it wasn't something you would specifically look for a flaw. When you're looking in your items, you're looking for a flaw, you're looking for holes, any snags, right? I don't specifically turn my items inside out unless I see something on the front. I turn it inside out. Okay, let's see how bad this is. Is this redeemable? Is this fixable? Is this stitchable? And then is this sellable? And if it is, then I'm mindful. And of course, as you always know, I note it in pictures and on my listing. But if it's not seen on the front, I don't turn every piece inside out to examine every little stitching. And this gal showed how inside the stitching, there was apparently a corrected flaw. And in my listing, it showed no flaws, good condition, no flaws. I did not see this, okay? Now, again, I'm not looking that closely at the stitching inside the item. If it doesn't show on the front, I don't go underneath and see how the stitching is underneath. Maybe I should. Do you guys do that? I would love to know in the comments below. On top of looking at the outside piece and seeing if there's flaws outside, do you all turn everything inside out and examine everything in detail inside your item? I would love to know in the comments if you do that. So she opened a case with Poshmark. I didn't comment. And one of the reasons why I didn't comment this time, y'all, is because last time I commented on a returned item with an issue, even though I told Poshmark that I was okay with doing a return, they still denied the case. And then the customer was really unhappy with me too. So, but with this, what I've been doing with Poshmark is if there's an open case, unless I know, like this recently, I did have an open case on a kid's piece, and it was my fault, and I wanted to make sure she knew that I was so sorry, because in the live, I did let her know if you have an issue, or if there's, because I actually made a mistake in my live, I did note on that case, and Poshmark wasn't actually even involved in the conversation yet. But in this particular case, because Poshmark was already pulled in, I let Poshmark handle it. They did end up approving it because in my listing it said no flaws, and underneath in the stitching, it showed that there was a mended flaw. And she said, I don't mean to be particular, but there is a flaw on the stitching inside underneath the hem. So I would like to return the item, and Poshmark approved the case. It is what it is. And honestly, when she opened the case, I didn't care if she returned it or not. I'm one of those kinds of people that if something gets returned, it gets returned, honestly. I'm not stressing it. If I just have to turn around and resell it, I'm not going to stress those little things, guys. If it doesn't really affect my status, I'm not really too worried about it. And I've got enough of a good rating on Poshmark. I actually was looking at my rating today because, again, I had a couple of things and issues with Poshmark sale that I did on a kids show. I wanted to see what my status was as a Poshmark on my status. And my status is still good. So I'm not really concerned about returns. If somebody returns something, I just deal with it. If I make it, if there is an issue, it's my fault, I mend it. I either mend it and relist it, or I get rid of the item and don't put it back up again if it's bad enough, okay? But so overcoming returns is another thing. If it's easy to let them get to us, right? But also on Poshmark, I've learned if there's a return, I let Poshmark handle it unless there's a specific reason why I need to comment on the issue. Whether I know it's my fault or not, because of the last experience I had, I don't really comment. I just let them handle it between them and the customer. And again, if it is a specific case where I really should comment about the item, I do. But in general, I just let Poshmark handle it. If they do the return, then I deal with it. I do the return. It's not a big deal to me. I'm not going to stress it. So that's kind of what I've been doing with that. But overcoming rough days, let's talk about that some more, you guys. There's also those days where it's hard to be consistent. Okay, I've actually been seeing some videos where some people have been having a hard time being consistent in daily listings because they have a sick family member, or there's been a change in if they have people that they've hired, there's been a change in what, the people they've hired, maybe they don't have as many people working for them. There's been a change in the dynamic of their business and trying to flip things around. There's a lot of reasons why it's difficult to be consistent. Maybe you have a full-time job, you come home and your kids are sick and you haven't been able to list consistently, or maybe your husband's sick or you're sick and you haven't been able to list those items consistently, and it does affect sales. But it's also getting through that sickness, and as we all know, getting back into the rhythm and the swing of things and overcoming that few days of just roughness, right? Sometimes it's rough sourcing. Sometimes being consistent is difficult in sourcing because we all know it's been a bit more challenging sourcing lately because the COG online has been really high and the COGs in the store have been really high. And if you shop at the bins, you don't always get great pieces at the bins either. And if you have a specific number of items that you're trying to list on a daily basis to keep your inventory and your flow going in your platforms, if you don't always have great pieces to list, that can be a challenge too. So overcoming that. Where your business is going as a reseller. We've been talking a lot about how reselling is changing. Platforms are changing. Platforms are trying to keep up the change of reselling. People are having a hard time, like we just talked about, getting items to the thrift store because the COG is so high. Liquidation. But also when platforms change, like lives come into the picture, and we know lives aren't going anywhere, there are certain people who are trying to figure out how to adjust, like myself and some of you others, how to adjust to Lives, what do we do with it? Is it part of my business model? If it's not, how do I acclimate? Where does my business model go, and how can I change it to continue to grow and improve my business model? And what platforms do I sell on for that business model? And then there's this. This is your job. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you. I would rather deal with all this stuff than work a job. I'm going to be really frank with you. I've worked jobs. My husband's worked jobs. We both would rather be a business owner than work a job. Because as a business owner, no matter what kind of stress and drama, and you got to deal with this, you got to deal with that, we would rather be our own boss and be in control of those things and be able to say yes or no to something, be able to change things if we need to of our own, than have a boss tell us how to do those things. When we go to work, how much we can make, when we're off, when we go to lunch, if we can take time off because our kids are sick, if we can take time off because you're sick and not get paid. There are ways when you're your own business owner, you can control those different aspects in your business, control how much you make. You determine how much you make in your own business. When you are in a job and a boss, they control all of that. They control everything that you do. So I'd rather deal with all of this than have a job. This is my job. So let's kind of be honest. Again, when we look at all these aspects of how rough our days can be and everything like that, and I'm talking to myself too, guys, I woke up in kind of a good mood. I was tired though, because I've had a really busy while, especially since I've been doing lives every night. Between that and listings and my YouTube, it's been very, very busy for me. I'm loving it, but it's been busy and I've been tired. But sometimes you wake up and you just kind of have to get over a little bit of that melancholy mood, right? And I've been having to try and get over a little bit of that on top of some mistakes that I've made the last couple of days on a Poshmark Live. It was my fault, and I did let them know on the live, hey, I made this mistake. Please let me know if there were issues with your order. And issues did come through on a couple of orders. And it kind of got to me a little bit. It kind of made me a little bit melancholy because even though they were really cool about it, and I was able to give them good customer service and say, hey, when you come into my next live, this is what we're going to do for you. And I did that last night, and it worked out very well, and they were happy, and I was happy. And the mistake that I made in that live made me realize I needed to tweak and change how I did my live. This is another thing we need to talk about. When you make a mistake in your business, whether it's inventory, or delisting or relisting something, or a live, if you did something like maybe your numbers were wrong, or you sent the wrong item out, your shipping was incorrect, you charged too much in shipping. There's so many different ways that we can make mistakes in lives, right, guys? The most important thing is, okay, so I made this mistake. How can I make my life better? To hopefully not make that mistake again, give myself grace, apologize to the customer, say, how can I rectify this? How can I give you good customer service and make sure that you're happy? I'm happy to do what I need to do for that, because it was my fault, okay? And make sure that I don't make that same mistake in my next live. And again, give myself grace if it does happen again, but do my best as a reseller in my business to make sure that I don't. And the mistake that I made actually forced me to be better in how I'm doing my Poshmark Live. And I am very new at Poshmark Lives. They're similar to Whatnot Lives, but there's a little bit of a difference in how Whatnot Lives are run and how Poshmark Lives are run, how you do your listings. Because see, on Whatnot, if you don't sell something on Whatnot Lives, you can move those items to a whole nother live, your next lives or whatever live you wanted to. You can forward those into another live. You don't have that ability on Poshmark. So for me, to even like list things, I can't forward it to another live, so it's a lot of work to put into it for Poshmark Live. And I was watching some other videos of people who do lives, and because it is so much work and they don't let you forward your items to the next live if it doesn't sell, you have to figure out on Poshmark how you're going to do that live. And for me, for kids' clothes, since I show so many different clothes in all sizes and all ranges, I do not load the live on Poshmark. That is a ton of work if the item doesn't sell. And I'm showing probably easily 100 pieces a night. So to reload that every single time, so I was just doing numbers, but now I'm actually, instead of just loading the numbers and just pulling up a number and running it, I'm actually loading the piece one piece at a time, and I'm giving a description and the size. So I'm very careful if I do miss a number that I still know what the piece is. So it made me improve my Poshmark listings when I do my live and help me to be better and improve and give better customer service that way. But again, I have to give grace to myself if I do make a mistake. But let me say this though. I know there's a lot of times in our lives or in our sales that it's a customer that's kind of being particular. Maybe it's buyer's remorse, or they're being picky and they didn't look at the information and it was still there. There are times like that. But if you truly did make a mistake on your listing or in your live, guys, make sure you're honest with your people about it. Don't cover it up. Give good customer service. If you've made a mistake, maybe figure out what works for your business model and rectify the situation. Give good customer service with that customer and be honest about it. Say, yes, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. I can do this or this, what works best for you. And just be genuine with them. Do apologize because you made a mistake. Some of them can be kind of knocky about it, but most times I find people are very gracious. They're like, hey, no problem. We know that it happens. Yeah, sure, I'm happy to do that. But don't beat around the bush about it. Don't say, oh, well, no, I don't think I did that. If you did make a mistake, own up to it. Be a person, own up to it, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. Because I've seen people, even in lives where they make a mistake, and they're like, okay, well, whatever. Don't be that way. Own up to it. Give good customer service, okay? Anyway, okay. So that's kind of part of my mistake that I made this last week. It kind of made me a little bit melancholy last night. I was really bummed with myself that I made a mistake, but it didn't just trickle to a person that I made a mistake with. It actually trickled to a couple of customers in the live, and it affected a couple of my orders. And I was bummed with myself. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I did that. And it affected me. So I woke up a little bit melancholy this morning, and I was kind of down, kind of hard getting motivated, kind of hard getting going. But I had to realize, you know what, it's going to happen. And I actually had a connection with another customer this morning. She said, you know what, it's okay that you made a mistake. I'm also a reseller. I'm kind of new to the whole thing. I understand that mistakes happen. But even the mistake that happened with her was a little bit different than the one that happened in my live last night. And she made me think, okay, so maybe how could I make this amends in my future things? So this is what I'm going to do. So help me to be better in that area of my reselling. So I want us to make sure that if we make mistakes, how can I make that a better thing to make my business better? Okay. So, yeah, it can be tough. It can be really tough. And that's kind of what I want to talk about: consistency in overcoming our challenges, overcoming returns. I was not expecting the returns that I had this week at all. We never expect the returns that we have. And it's so funny. Somebody commented on a video one time. She says, I can go weeks without having a return. And the next thing I know, I've got like 2 or 3 returns all back to back. Why is that? And I found that too. I had weeks where I didn't have any returns. Then I had like 2 or 3 returns. And then I had a few more weeks where I didn't have anything. And then due to a flaw on an item that I didn't see, I had another return. And then I made a mistake on a live. So it is what it is. But there's just a lot of times as resellers, we have to overcome these obstacles. And I want us to be there for each other. I want to be real with you guys on my channel here. That it isn't always peachy as a reseller, and it's not just when we make mistakes. Like I said, sometimes life is just tough. Sometimes you just have circumstances going on in life, and it's just hard to be focused on reselling. Or sometimes maybe sometimes people are dealing with postpartum depression, or their kids are going through a difficult time in life, or who knows? A lot of people have different stories. And I just want to say, give yourself time, give yourself grace. And if we do make mistakes, or if we're having a hard time, and you guys, I want to be honest with you too. If you're having a difficult time, reseller to reseller, you can always reach out to me. That is part of what my YouTube channel is for. And also when I'm live, I want my lives to not just be where people can come and find a good deal on kids' clothes. But if you're going through tough times and you need to just kind of talk, I'm always open to that. You can always message me, and I'm just here for you. I just want it to be real. If you're having a hard time with reselling, or you have a question about how I overcome certain things in reselling, if you'd like me to do a certain video about something that's been tough in reselling, how to overcome certain things, please feel free to drop that down in the comments. I'd love to do a video about that, because again, I think too many people think that reselling is just all peace. It's just like all, it's a piece of cake. And reselling is not a piece of cake. Not only are there tough days, but it's hard work. It is hard work. And you don't even have to have a YouTube video for it to be hard. If you have a YouTube channel, that's extra work too. Some people just sell on lives. Some people sell on lives and do platforms like I do. Not everybody has a YouTube channel. I do. So I have a lot of work that I do. And it is tough work. It's hard work. But it's very, very rewarding. And I want us to make sure we keep that in the forefront. When you're going through hard times, just remember that reselling is very rewarding. Even though it has its crummy times, again, I'd still rather be a reseller and have the rough days than have a job and have to deal with all that stuff. Deal with bad coworkers. And I mean, when you're dealing with bad coworkers, that's kind of a daily thing, right? When you have a return, or there's something that you made a mistake on, or maybe you just have a bad, a bad customer who's just being a goofball. That does happen once in a while, but hopefully it's not a daily thing. I still rather own my own business and deal with that sort of thing than be at a job and deal with that stuff. Again, I've had jobs, and I'm really glad I'm not working jobs anymore. I always put 110% into my jobs, and I'm not saying that to brag, but that's just the kind of person I am. When I work jobs, when I own my own business, I like it to be 110%. And sometimes you're working with other people who aren't willing to do that. When you have a job, when it's just me running my business, it's up to me to make. If I make a mistake, it's me. Okay. If I give 110%, I have the rewards of that 110%. When I'm working with other people in jobs, you don't have that 110% from all the employees. Sometimes you're working hard, and if you have a partner that you work with on a certain project or something, and they're not willing to give that 110%, then you have to kind of pull and toe the line, right? I didn't like having to do that. With this, it's up to me how hard I work. It's up to me how much I make. And again, if there's changes in the reselling community, it's up to me to figure out with those changes between platforms, COGS, sourcing, it's up to me to figure out how it works with my business model, how I make more money. And I love that. I love that. Again, no matter how bad the day is. And I'm glad that I'm doing this video today, because it's helping me to just kind of like mentally reset and rejuvenate too. So me talking to you and sharing with you guys about how to overcome all this helps me to like, okay, so now that I know this, I have things I can do today to reset and make my business better today, which makes me very happy. And I love learning from you. Some of you have been commenting about my unboxings. Thank you so much. I love your feedback. I love how you share with me how, hey, this box is great for you, but my box was crummy from this business. And talking about how maybe we can connect with that company. Say, hey, you know what? We're getting some really good boxes, but you made some changes, and now they're crummy boxes. And I encourage those people, hey, reach out to them. And I might actually reach out to that company too. I'm talking about Quick Lots. My box that I got, the 30-piece box that I got, was actually a good box. But I've had a few people comment about how they got those boxes, and they weren't good boxes. Their 30-piece boxes weren't good boxes. Lots of flaws, not a lot of stuff that they could list, cheap items. And I encourage them to reach out to the company and say, hey, since you changed your box, they're not good anymore. And I've actually thought about reaching out to them myself, saying, I've been hearing a lot. I've hesitated buying another box because I'm hearing that these 30-piece boxes aren't good. Can I ask what you're doing about that? And just letting them know that there's a lot of people who have noticed that now that you're doing the 30-piece box, you said that they'd have nicer items in it, and you've reduced the number of items for $300, but that hasn't been the case. And seeing what they say. I haven't bought another box yet, honestly, because I may buy another one in a couple months, or maybe next month. I just finished listing most of the inventory from that 30-piece Quick Lots box that I got. And again, some of you have noted to me that your boxes weren't good. And I felt really bad because my box was actually pretty decent. I do hope I at least doubled my money on that one, because all my other boxes from them have actually been pretty good. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to buy another 30-piece box. I do hesitate because of what you guys have said about your boxes, and I do have the ways to get inventory, so I am trying to figure that out. And again, I might actually reach out to them. And, this is, again, another thing that could be a negative in our reselling business that can make us bummed and we have to overcome, right? Is what happens with our sourcing boxes, what we do with our unboxings. Even with the 15% flaw rate, some of these boxes were way above 15% flaw rate, and that's not okay. If you're getting boxes like that, that's not okay. And you do need to let the company know, hey, this is not okay. This is like way more than 50%. If it's 50 or 60%, you got bad flaws, bad bad items, rips, tears, and all that, that is not an okay box. And they need to know that those are not good boxes. And you know what? I'm not going to buy it. This is what you're going to send me, right? We need to let these companies know that that isn't okay. Hopefully, if enough of us do that with Quick Lots and we're getting those boxes with a Quick Lots, Helpsy Source. The thing that I'm not happy with Helpsy Source about, and I know a lot of other companies do this, is they say, well, people complain about sizing in these boxes. This is another thing to overcome, you guys, with sourcing that could be a bummer in our business, you guys, is when they do these listings on these platforms, guys, and people complain about how I just got smalls, extra smalls on my box, they do actually note in their listing they cannot guarantee sizing. And people were upset because they got extra smalls and smalls, and that's all the sizing they got in their boxes instead of like even larges, mediums. The problem is in the listing, they do actually say they can't guarantee sizing in those boxes. So knowing that, being mindful when you do order these boxes, that is a possibility you may get those small sizes. And I'm going to be doing a video on liquidation. I haven't done it yet. I'm actually making notes, been making notes for a couple weeks on topics that I want to talk about with liquidation and what to look for and what not to look for via feedback that I've seen on YouTube videos. This wasn't part of my talk for this week's chat, but I do want to let you know I'm going to be doing a video on liquidation, what to look for, what to be mindful of, and my do's and don'ts, what I've done, what I've learned from. I'm going to be putting a video out on that here very soon because I think it's an important video to be mindful of. There's not a lot of videos out there on that. So do stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. If these reseller chats are a blessing to you, please do give this video a thumbs up. I hope this was an encouragement to you guys. I hope that knowing that you're not the only one that has bad days, melancholy days, rough days, don't get all your listings done, maybe you're sick or maybe you're getting returns and it's just driving you crazy, changes in the reseller community between lives, COGS, what the thrift stores are doing. There's just a lot of changes going on. The economy is affecting things. There's just a lot of things going on. I want you guys to know you're not the only one that's having rough days with things. And even if you see somebody having just a great video, they're hype, they've got good energy and everything, everybody has bad days. It's how to overcome those objections, how to overcome those negativities, how to overcome the melancholy, how to overcome sleeplessness, not being able to list enough. There's just so many aspects of that. How to overcome the fact that you want to be a full-time reseller and you're still working a job. I know some people who are part-time resellers working full-time jobs, and they really, really want to be full-time reselling, and they're trying to figure out how to work their business model to get to that point. Don't give up. Keep plugging away, guys. Keep plugging away. You can get there. It may be a little bit of a longer journey than you would hope for, but if you're planning on being a full-time reseller, it's a journey, right? It's not a destination. So give yourself grace and put together a plan of action. If you don't have a plan of action to go from part-time reselling to full-time reselling, sit down and figure out what plan of action you want to accomplish, even from now until like maybe the end of the year, guys. We're already in May. So we've got 7 months left of the year. Figure out over the next 7 months, if you want to go from part-time to full-time reselling, how you can get further along in the next 7 months so that maybe next year you're closer to your goal. Or maybe even next year, you might be at that goal of being a full-time reseller. Figure out how you can accommodate that, what you need to do in your business plan, how much you need to source, how much you need to list, what kind of cog you need so that you can get your thing really, really going. Don't give up. Keep going at it. Charge that hill. You guys can do this. I'm super excited for you guys if you wanted to go full-time and you're only part-time or reselling. That excites me because, guys, like I always say, this is a great time to be resellers. This is the best time. The economy is rough. This is a great time to be a reseller and provide great product to people because the economy is tough. This is the reason why it's a great time to be a reseller, because the economy is tough. So I say that, yeah, it may sometimes slow sales down, but if you're putting your item at a good have a good cog, you're putting your item at a good price to sell it, to double your money or triple your money on your item, this is such a great time, guys, to be a reseller. I think it's one of the reasons why it's a good time to be a reseller, because of the economy. Because you have a great product. You have a good item. If your cog is good, your price is good, you're going to sell pieces. And again, like we talked about last week, be willing to accept offers, especially if you're doubling your money. Take those offers, guys. Okay, I hope this was a help to you. Um, I really enjoyed this. It really helped me to reevaluate too. These are always great videos for me because again, like I've told you, I learned from you guys. If you guys have feedback on some of the topic in this, I love hearing from you guys. I love you guys helping me, teach me. I love learning from y'all. I love knowing what boxes work for you, what don't. I love knowing, hey, I bought that box. If I bought that box and you watched my video, said, you know what, I bought that box, it didn't work for me. This is why. I love knowing why boxes didn't work for you. So if I have that box now, okay, so if it didn't work for them and I have that box and I need to get those items sold, what can I do to make it work for me? And then do I buy this box again? I learned so much from you guys. I hope you learned so much from me too. Hope we learned from each other in this reselling community. Again, if you're new to this community, again, welcome. If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for watching. I hope you take a moment, if this was a blessing to you, to subscribe. We do unboxings. We do a monthly what's sold video. I have done some hauls. I did a small little video clip. If you guys haven't watched my little video clip I did of a haul that we had last week at garage sales, please go back and watch it. It's just a little short. I think you'll like it. And do give this video a thumbs up. Hit that bell notification, guys. I'm looking so forward to my next videos coming out, and we'll see you then.